Do you ever meet someone and think, wow, they've really been through it, and then realize we all have? That's what We're All Insane is all about. It's a podcast where real people sit down to share their stories that have shaped them, the raw, unfiltered moments that don't usually make it into everyday conversation. There are no scripts, no interruptions, and no filters, just honest storytelling that unfolds naturally. From heartbreak and loss to recovery and resilience, every episode is a reminder that even in our darkest moments, we're never really alone. If you love hearing real stories that make you feel something, stories that connect us all, this is one you'll want to subscribe to. You can listen to We're All Insane wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes every Sunday.
I'm Heidi Wong, an artist, poet, and creator, and if you've seen my TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram, you'll know I'm obsessed with horror movies. And every Monday on my new podcast from Crime House, Twisted Tales, I'll take you deep into the real-life events that inspired the world's most terrifying blockbusters, and the ones too twisted to make it to screen. Twisted Tales is a Crime House original podcast powered by Pave Studios. Watch every Monday on YouTube or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
Every time I looked over my shoulder, he was still there. I ran through the rest of the mall. I told my friend on the phone that if I did not call her back in 5 minutes, she needed to call my spouse and the police.
He lingered, circling the counter and pretending to look at jewelry. I stayed crouched behind the counter, trying to stay out of sight. I was frightened.
From Killer Podcasts, true tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events. This is Disturbed. Hello, and welcome back to the show. This week, we have 4 true stories that will make your skin crawl. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. In our first story, an ex-employee goes off the rails. Narrated by Akisha Archer from Reddit user That Girl Mary.
When I was 19, I used to work closing shifts at a Sam's Club in North Carolina. It was only about a 7-minute drive from my mom's house, and I genuinely loved my coworkers. We were a close team, and I trusted them to have my back. I didn't know just how lucky I was to have them. This happened right after a big holiday sales event, the kind where the store is packed and everything is chaos. I was in the clothing section late at night, folding piles of clothes left behind on the tables. That's when I noticed a man watching me out of the corner of my eye. I assumed he needed some assistance. I turned towards him and asked, "Is there anything I can help you find?" When he answered, it was a nervous, high-pitched voice. He asked for a different size. I helped him. But afterward, he started complimenting me, telling me I was pretty and asking if I was Hispanic. Sure, it was weird, but I was exhausted and didn't think much of it. I figured he was harmless. As the store was closing, he asked for my Snapchat. I gave it to him, never thinking I'd actually have a conversation with him. Looking back, I was an idiot. Why would a 19-year-old ever give her Snapchat to a man who looked to be in his 40s? After we closed and cleared the store, I met up with my closest coworker. I'll call her Bestie. We started debriefing about our shift, and I casually mentioned the guy and told her his name, Tim. That's when her face dropped. She asked to see his Snapchat. The moment I pulled it up, she went quiet and called over a manager we trusted. Suddenly, I was being asked questions. What he looked like, what he said, whether he was alone. Then they told me who he really was. Tim was a former employee who'd been fired after multiple incidents. He had stalked a girl who worked at the store, using the posted schedules in the break room to track when she worked. He even started showing up on her off days to bother her. Things escalated badly enough that he was eventually terminated. When I was working there, we used an app for our schedule instead of a public posting. And now I knew why. Tim. And apparently, I was next. That night, my manager and bestie walked me to my car. While we were standing there, I got a Snapchat message from Tim. I showed them immediately. The message asked if I lived nearby and if I wanted to hang out. Bestie told me exactly what to say, that I didn't live alone and had roommates nearby. When he asked if he could come over, I said no. Then I blocked him. But my curiosity got the best of me. When I got home, I looked him up on Facebook. He had a wife, kids, a family. I considered warning his wife, but I was told the woman before me had tried that, and the wife didn't believe her. The next day at work, Bestie called me over the walkie-talkie and told me to go to the back of the store. Tim is here, she said. And he was asking for me by name. This became routine. Almost every shift, he'd come in asking where I was. I'd hide in the break room, out the back, or wherever I could. Eventually, most of my coworkers knew what was happening and helped without question. There were a few close calls, though. One day, Tim slipped into the store without anyone noticing right away. He made his way to my department and was looking for me when I spotted him. Just at that moment, my walkie crackled to life. It was Bestie. She'd seen him too and was telling me to make myself scarce. I ran into the jewelry department, where an older coworker was working. I ducked out of sight near the register and whispered up to her, "Tim." She understood immediately. Seconds later, Tim walked up and asked if a little Hispanic girl from clothing was working that day. Miss Joy told him no. Still, he lingered, circling the counter and pretending to look at jewelry. I stayed crouched behind the counter, trying to stay out of sight. Eventually, he left, but I was frightened. I stayed hidden for over an hour just to be sure. What scared me most was in the parking lot outside of the store. Some nights, after closing, we'd see a minivan idling with its lights off. It only ever left after I walked to my car. I couldn't prove it was him. If it was, he never showed his face, never tried anything with so many of my coworkers looking out for me. After 5 months, he slowly stopped appearing at the store. I never filed a restraining order. I was young, overwhelmed, and just trying to survive everything else in my life at the time. For months, my workplace was like a trap I had to willfully enter, and my coworkers had to protect me. But Tim, if you're listening, I hope you get some help.
Next, a road trip is interrupted by a strange woman looking for help. Narrated by Sinn, from Reddit user GGTM Aiden.
I was driving from Denver, Colorado to Albuquerque, New Mexico by myself to visit my father. I enjoyed driving at night since it wasn't as hot, there were fewer police, and there was less traffic. I was also younger at the time, around 19 years old, so I wasn't armed with a handgun like I am these days. When I entered Pueblo, Colorado, I decided to stop and get some food. I pulled into the Sonic on South Santa Fe Road and parked across from the drive-thru in one of the order spots, facing away from the building. After ordering, I rolled my window back up. I normally wouldn't do that since I love the smell of fresh night air, but for some reason I did this time. As I sat there waiting for my food and looking at my phone, I heard a very light tapping on my driver's side window. Startled, I looked up and saw a woman standing right against the glass. She looked ordinary, but I felt a chilling sense that something was off. She motioned for me to roll the window down. I refused and instead yelled through the glass, asking what she wanted. She shouted that her car had broken down and pointed to a car stopped in the middle of the street. She asked if I would help her push it off the road and into the adjacent parking lot. I looked around, and the eerie thing was that no one else was anywhere nearby. Normally, I'm very helpful and was raised to pull over and offer a hand whenever I could. But something was off. Her presence sent a cold feeling down my spine. I wasn't safe. I politely refused, but she kept insisting and totally ignored my suggestion to ask the Sonic employees. Then she started pulling on the door handle. Thankfully, my car was locked, but I started freaking out. I shouted at her to get away from my vehicle. She gave me a dark stare for a moment, then suddenly ran back to her car. Immediately after, I saw 3 large men run out of a dark alley near the parking lot and jump into the same broken-down car. She started it without any issue, and they sped off. Shaken, I said a prayer and called my father to tell him what had happened. Always trust your gut, guys.
When it comes to home security, you want to feel like you've picked a system that actually keeps trouble away, not one that just tells you something bad already happened. That's why I like SimpliSafe Home Security. It isn't just another alarm, it's designed to help stop crime before it starts. SimpliSafe uses AI-powered cameras outside your home to spot real threats and instantly alert live agents. And that's what makes it different from the rest. Those agents actually take action while the intruder is still outside, talking to them through the camera, letting them know they're being watched and the police are on their way. And, if needed, they can blast a siren and turn on a spotlight. I got SimpliSafe a while back and I am so happy I did. It was super easy to set up, and I'm glad to have the peace of mind that my home, belongings, and family are safe. Nothing beats that feeling. Other systems might give you a camera and a notification, but they need you to see the alert and handle it. SimpliSafe's monitoring agents have your back, even when you're busy, asleep, or on a plane. They're protecting over 5 million Americans and have been named Best Home Security Systems by U.S. and World Report for 5 years in a row. This month only, you can get 50% off any new system. It's a great time to upgrade to security that actually helps stop crime before it starts. Go to simplisafe.com/disturbed. That's simplisafe.com/disturbed. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. A new year and colder days mean your winter wardrobe really has to deliver. If you're craving a reset, start with pieces built to last. Because nothing's scarier than stepping into the cold only to realize that your coat has the structural integrity of a haunted house. Quince brings together premium materials and lasting quality so you stay warm, look sharp, and feel your best. Quince has everything: Mongolian cashmere sweaters, wool coats, leather outerwear, and beyond the wardrobe, my most recent purchase was a set of bed sheets that have totally changed the quality of my sleep. Quince is quality, affordable, and every piece I've ordered, from joggers to sheets, is comfortable. Their outerwear is especially impressive. Each piece is made from premium materials by trusted factories without luxury markups, classic styles that hold up year after year. Refresh your winter wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/disturbed for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. That's QUINCE.com/disturbed. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/disturbed. Welcome back, listeners. In our next story, a Bumble BFF date goes from bad to worse. Narrated by Laura Lockwood from Reddit user Goodies and Ganja.
I moved across the country for the first time a little over a year ago. I didn't know anyone, and my line of work was not great for meeting people, so I downloaded Bumble BFF as a way to meet friends in my area. I spoke to a few girls, and the first meetup I went to went astonishingly well. I decided to give it another go and met with a girl named Amber, who was just a couple of years younger than me. Amber and I had texted for a few days before we decided to meet up for brunch. We met at a coffee shop, and I noticed as soon as she approached me that she didn't look too much like her photos. It wasn't a stark difference, but enough to notice. It seemed like the pictures could have been of a sister or cousin, or maybe she was just really good at taking pictures. I didn't mind too much, as it wasn't a real date, but it was just the first red flag. Within moments of meeting, she immediately started trauma dumping. During the conversation, she mentioned how she didn't drive and that she also had 2 young children. We sat for a while, and it was like I couldn't even get a word in. She was bulldozing the whole conversation. I was trying to think of a way to politely leave, but since she didn't drive, I felt guilty leaving her alone. I finally told her I needed to hit the ladies' room and get on with the rest of my day. She offered to walk with me to the restroom. For context, this coffee shop was at an outdoor outlet mall. We had to walk all the way across the mall to reach the restroom. While I was in the stall, I heard, "Mommy." When I opened the door, she was holding a toddler. I thought, where did this child just appear from? She seemed just as surprised as I was. She introduced her kid, who then hissed at me. I know kids are strange sometimes, but it just added to the weird energy. I washed my hands and exited the bathroom to see a man with a stroller. She exited the bathroom and introduced her boyfriend. He was very unfriendly, and she pressured me to say hello to the baby in the stroller. I hesitantly pulled the cover down and said, "Hello." The baby started crying, and I felt really uncomfortable. I thanked her for meeting with me, and I watched her and her boyfriend walk off to their car. I knew she didn't drive, so I suspected her partner had driven her, but she never mentioned they were also at the mall waiting for us to finish, especially since it had been hours, or how they ended up at the same ladies' room. I figured maybe he had her location on his phone, or that she must have texted him that brunch was ending, although I never saw her on her phone. After I watched them get into the car, I started to trek back to the other end of the mall, where I stopped to grab an Auntie Anne's pretzel. I was waiting in line and got a call from a close friend. I told her about the strange experience and how her boyfriend appeared out of nowhere, thinking that was the end of it. The man working told me it would be a few minutes, so I sat down. As I sat down, I saw her boyfriend standing in line behind me. I was horribly embarrassed because although I did not plan on seeing Amber again, it was never my goal to be nasty or hurt anyone's feelings. I made eye contact with him, and between being confused and embarrassed, I decided to leave without getting my pretzel and started heading back to my car. As I was walking toward my car, I looked behind me, and her partner was now deliberately following me. Thoughts were racing through my head. If he'd been waiting the whole time, why hadn't he gotten something to eat before? How did he know which area of the mall we were in? Why was he following me? Was he going to confront me if he overheard my conversation on the phone? Every time I looked over my shoulder, he was still there. I ran through the rest of the mall. I told my friend on the phone that if I did not call her back in 5 minutes, she needed to call my spouse and the police. I finally got to my car and I could see him storming through the parking lot after me. I threw my key in and drove out of there as quickly as I could, my heart pounding in my ears. Once I was about halfway home, I called my friend and let her know I was okay. I got home, told my spouse about it, and decided to delete my Bumble BFF account as well as block her on Snapchat, which was the only other social media account I had friended her on. A day later, she found me on Instagram, which I hadn't given her. She sent me a message that said, "Hey girlie, I had a great time at brunch. We should all hang out again soon." I blocked her on Instagram as well, and thank God I have not heard from her since. I'm not sure what their intentions were. Truly, I don't want to find out.
Don't run away. Disturbed will return in a moment. Now that the holidays are over, you might be feeling that big spending hangover. The gifts, the food, the bills creeping in like shadows under a locked door. Luckily, Mint Mobile is here to help you cut back on overspending on wireless this January with 50% off unlimited premium wireless. And look, I'm not new to Mint. I've been a Mint Mobile user for 3 years now. Leaving the big brand cellular providers was life-changing. My bill went from a couple $100 per month for 3 lines to less than $750 for the year. The service is great, affordable, and ideal for anyone who uses a cell phone. I've been telling my family to use Mint Mobile for years. Mint Mobile's end-of-the-year sale is still going on, but only until the end of the month. Cut out Big Wireless's bloated plans with 50% off 3, 6, or 12 months of unlimited. All plans include high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. This January, Mint Mobile is here to help you cut back on overspending on wireless with 50% off unlimited premium wireless. Plans starting at $15 a month at mintmobile.com/disturbed. That's mintmobile.com/disturbed. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month, $90 for 6-month, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. Finally, a young man learns a hard lesson about the streets of Raleigh. Narrated by Bodhi Crowe, from Reddit user Dervanada.
When I was 20, I moved from California to Raleigh, North Carolina. I was a huge pot smoker at the time, and my medical marijuana card didn't transfer across states, so I was constantly looking for a connect, often walking up to random strangers with a $20 bill in hand, wanting to buy a gram or so. The bus stop in downtown Raleigh had a tunnel that you walked through to get to it, and dealers often hung out by the entrance, so that's where I'd go looking. Mind you, I was a scrawny dude whose Californian attire stuck out like a sore thumb. This made a lot of dealers think I was a narc, making my search that much harder. I knew an older man who I'd become acquainted with who always had good weed, so when he was there, he could vouch for me. One time I went to the tunnel and he wasn't there, so I asked a random guy if he knew where to get weed. He said, "Yeah, do you have the money?" And I handed him the 20. He said something like, "Cool, I'll hop in your car and direct you." I was much more naive back then, so I agreed. He directed me to what I'd consider the hood in a pretty rough part of Raleigh and told me to wait in front of a dilapidated house while he went in. So I waited. It was around 10 minutes that I was parked in front of this random house, just chilling in my car, and my heart rate was slowly going up. I had no clue what was happening inside of this house, or if he would ever come back out again. Finally, he opened the door and motioned for me to come in. I should mention I'm 6 feet tall, but again, I'm scrawny. This man towered over me, probably somewhere around 6'5" and easily twice my weight. I would be completely powerless against him. I followed him inside of this house. The lights were all off, and immediately upon opening the door, I realized it was a hoarder house. We walked on and over piles of garbage, through a small walkway cut through the piles, and into a tiny bedroom. He opened the door, and inside was more trash. On the bed, the floors, just everywhere I looked. Sitting on the bed was an old, fat lady in a nightgown. She was completely blind, and I'm not exaggerating, was staring at an old TV which was playing gray static on no particular channel. The man shut the door behind me, closing me into the room with him. My heart rate spiked. He sat down on the bed and pulled out a crack pipe. He began to load it with what I assume was crack cocaine, a little white rock, and lit the pipe, inhaling. He coughed and passed the pipe to the lady, who took a big hit and began mumbling random, incoherent things. As the man passed the pipe to me, I was beginning to have an anxiety attack. I said, "No thanks, man. I just wanted to find some weed. I don't smoke anything else." He said, "Smoke this." I said again, "No thanks, man. I really just wanted weed." And before I could finish, he said, "Nah, man. Smoke this." At this point, I was terrified and really intimidated. I'd never smoked crack in my life and never wanted to either. Reluctantly, I took the pipe and brought it to my lips, taking the tiniest hint I possibly could, and tried not to inhale, blowing it out as soon as I had taken it in. I saw that as my opportunity to leave, as I knew he wouldn't have any weed by that point. I jumped up off the bed and got out of there as fast as I could. I kept looking over my shoulder to see if anyone would come out of the house, but no one ever did. I got into my car, feeling strange, as my lips and mouth tingled with this disgusting metallic taste. Needless to say, I guess I did get pretty high and don't hardly remember my drive home. You would think that that situation would be enough to turn me off of meeting and giving random people rides, but alas, this was not the case. This leads me to my second story. It was a few months later, and I was in my car after a long work day. I smoked some weed in one of my favorite parking structures in downtown Raleigh, and when I finished, I rolled the windows down and got ready to head home. As I was turning the music on, a random lady yelled at me from about 100 feet away. I couldn't hear what she was saying and was a little leery of strangers by this point, but still unfortunately very naive. I yelled out of my window, "What?" She walked closer to my car. As she came into view, it was clear that she looked awful. Gaunt facial features, a real thin body. She was emaciated, an addict of some sort. She was probably in her late 50s, but looked to be about 70, as happens when you've been addicted for God only knows how long. She got to my car and was relatively lucid, asking me if I could give her a ride down the street. I know now that the lucidity was because she had been high when she talked to me, and this is relevant because her behavior completely changed only a few minutes after I'd agreed to let her into my car. She began giving me directions, telling me to turn left here, right here, etc. So after a few more turns, she began to get somewhat confused, losing her sense of direction. I said, "Look, I really want to be going home now. Is this place close?" To which she replied, a little manically, "It's just right down this way." So I turned where she directed me. Another few minutes came and went, and she was starting to become agitated because she couldn't remember where she wanted to go. At this point, I just wanted to go home, so I said, "I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to drop you off here. I need to get back home." When I said this, she immediately became hysterical. She cried and mumbled in the most upsetting sob I'd ever heard. It was a mixture between a croak and a cry. She tried to grab my steering wheel and pull. She was trying to lead me down Swain Street, a place known for having dealers and being very unsafe, day or night. I told her, "Don't touch my steering wheel! You need to get out right now." And I pulled the car to the side of the curb, onto Swain Street. She proceeded to put her skinny hands around my throat, half-heartedly choking me and begging me to keep going. I was more annoyed than worried at that point, as she was so frail that I knew she couldn't hurt me. So, unfortunately, I obliged. I drove further down the street and saw at least 20 men openly carrying guns, dealing from the corner of the street. Hanging out on porches, smoking weed and crack. I immediately got nervous and just wanted to get the hell out of there and go back home to lay down. I pried her hands off my neck and said, "If you touch me again, you're getting out of my car." I should have kicked her out long before that, however. She then said to me, "Pull over right here." So I did. Immediately, 3 or 4 dudes started canvassing my car, looking through the windows. She rolled down my passenger window and started yelling at anyone who would listen. "Hey! Hey!" And a man walked up to my car. I was trying to make myself small, as I'm in way over my head by this point. The guy says, "What you want?" And I said, "Nothing, dude. I don't know this lady, and I just want to go home." And he says, "So you don't want to buy?" And I said, "No, I don't know this woman, and I never should have let her into my car." And then he says, "Okay, I'm gonna help you out. I see her staying over by the corner across the street. She strips for money. I'll show you where to drop her off." Then he proceeds to get into my car without even asking. Now, he and the crackhead lady are arguing all the way while he's directing me where to drop her off. It gets so heated that he says to me, "All right, stop here." I stop. He proceeds to the front seat, opens her door, and grabs her hair and yanks her out of the seat and onto the curb. He then gets into the front seat and shuts the door. All nonchalantly, he says, "Hey man, could you buy me a sandwich at this gas station and drop me off?" And I was just so tired at that point that I said, "Sure man, you helped me out, so I'll help you out." I dropped him off at the gas station and gave him $10 and got the fuck out of there. After that, I finally learned not to let strangers into my car.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at disturbedpodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Our producer is Declan Roars. Audio engineering by Nathan Corson, Will Pritz, and Sean Rule Hoffman. Executive producer Bridget Coyne. Until next time, stay safe out there.